Have you ever noticed that some people start treating you differently as soon as you stop being so easy to manipulate? But wait, it wasn't as simple as them retreating. No, they change tactics. They start to guilt trip you, they spread rumors, they twist what you say, what you do, all this not because you have changed, but because you are no longer in their control. While you are just being yourself, they are silently pulling the strings behind, trying every way to pull you back to the orbit they want. And there, right at the intersection of individual freedom and subtle manipulation, Stoic philosophy speaks. Stoicism does not teach us how to control others, but how to not be controlled. But I want to ask you, are you really free? Or are you still reacting to other people's scripts without realizing it? It's time to stop that. It's time to step out of the invisible cage. Stay until the end of the video, because the last thing I share might be the most dangerous trick of all. But before we dive into each tactic, I want to tell you a story. A simple metaphor, but one that will change the way you look at personal freedom forever. 1. They play the victim. When they no longer have control over you, they try to make you feel guilty. When direct control fails, when manipulation or slander no longer works, they enter the ultimate role, the victim role. They don't apologize, they don't admit their mistake, they don't face up to their actions. Instead, they turn things around. Suddenly, they're the one who's hurt. They cry, they whine, they draw pitying glances from others, while you become the bad guy in their story. But understand this. Playing the victim is not about seeking justice, it's about avoiding responsibility. They don't want to take responsibility for their actions. They want to redefine the truth to their advantage. And if you fall into that trap, if you try to explain, justify, or smooth over the situation, then you are entering their stage. And on that stage, you are always at fault. What does Stoic philosophy help you do? Epictetus once said, "A wise person does not let others determine his feelings." That's the key. Control your emotions. The victim wants you to feel guilty, wants you to get angry, wants you to react, because your emotions are tools to continue their control. But if you don't participate, if you just observe calmly and alertly, they lose the role. I used to know someone like that. They kept crossing the boundaries I had set, and when I finally spoke up to defend myself, what did they do? They didn't apologize. They pretended to be hurt. They told others that I was too harsh, that I treated them badly. At first I wanted to argue, but then I chose to stay silent. I let my actions and consistency speak for themselves. As time goes by, people begin to see clearly who is truly honest and who is just acting. Because no one can play the victim forever. The truth, even if hidden, always has a way of revealing itself. So, how to deal with this type of person? 1. Don't argue. Every time you try to prove something, you're reinforcing their role. 2. Let them reveal themselves. Truly deceitful people can't maintain a facade for very long. Sooner or later their behavior will contradict the story they've created. 3. Protect your energy. You don't have to prove anything to people who don't want to understand. Remember, you are not the audience for anyone's drama. You do not need to react to insincere displays of emotion. Step back, observe, and maintain your dignity. 2. They manipulate you. When they can't control you directly, they turn to covert control. When people realize they can't order you around, can't bend you to their will, they don't give up. They just change their methods. There are no clear orders, no public pressure. Instead, they move into a gray area, where emotions are fooled, where reason fades. They manipulate. They make you feel like you owe them. After all I do for you, this is how you treat me in return. They flatter you to bind you. You do this so well. I don't know what I would do without you. When those fail, they turn to pressure, urgency, playing the victim, all to instill in you a sense of responsibility, but not responsibility to the truth, but to them. This is not respect. This is a tactic to maintain power without you realizing it. And this is where the Stoic philosophy shines. Lao Tzu once said, "Who controls others is powerful. He who controls himself is powerful." True strength lies not in making others obey you, but in standing firm in the midst of all schemes. Manipulators feed off your emotional reactions, guilt, doubt, fear of disapproval. Imagine a game of chess. Every word they say is a move, designed to lead you into an opening. But if you don't react as expected, if you just observe and don't play the game they set up, they lose. I once met someone who was very good at turning a situation around in their favor. One time, they asked me to help them with something that I was uncomfortable with. I said no, politely but clearly. And their response? A sigh. I thought we were closer than that. I felt a wave of guilt rising. My natural instinct was to explain, to justify, but I stopped. I just smiled and said, "I know what you are doing." Just one sentence, and the game is over. They have no more power. So how to deal with this type of person? 1. Recognize the game. If you feel pressured, it's likely not a sincere request, but a manipulation strategy. 2. Stay calm and firm. The more neutral your response, the less they can control you. 3. Don't play by their rules. You don't need to justify, you don't need to argue, you don't need to prove anything. Just say no and walk away. Manipulation only works when you participate. Once you stop, that power disappears. Be yourself. Stand your ground. And remember, your choices are yours, not anyone else's. 3. They make up stories about you. When they can't control you, they try to control how others see you. When they realize that you are not easily led, emotionally manipulated, or verbally manipulated, they don't give up. They just move on to a lower level, smearing you. No confrontation, no face-to-face. They quietly make up stories, twist the truth, spread rumors behind your back. Not because you're wrong, but because they need to control what's left, your image in the eyes of others. This is the tactic of the weak. When they lack logic, they use rumors. When they lack facts, they fabricate stories. When they can't control you, they try to control the public opinion around you. And they want you to react. They want you to lose your cool, to rush to defend yourself, to rush to prove yourself. Because as soon as you do, you enter their game and they take the initiative. But what does Stoicism teach us? Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are not affected by what other people say, you have already won." Yes, your silence is victory. The truth does not need to be shouted. It stands silently and is more enduring than any slander. I remember that time. Someone deliberately spread false information about me. My first instinct? I wanted to refute, to clarify, to restore my honor. But then I stopped. I said nothing. I just stayed true to myself. I let my actions speak for themselves. And what happened? The lie collapsed. The people who really knew me began to see through me. The whistleblower was revealed. Because a lie, no matter how sophisticated, cannot last long when placed next to true personality. So what should you do when you get scammed? 1. Don't respond. Arguing only spreads the lie. Your silence kills it. 2. Let your actions speak for you. A solid reputation is built by living right, not arguing. 3. Understand that slander says more about the person who created it, not you. You don't have to rush to prove yourself in every conversation. The truth is strong enough to stand on its own if you have the patience to wait for it to speak. Never lose your inner peace because of what others say. It is like someone throwing mud at you. If you don't touch it, it dries and falls off. But if you wipe it away, you make yourself dirtier. Stand still, let time wash away, and walk away, clean, calm, unwavering. 4. They sow doubt in your heart. When they can't control your actions, they seek to control your inner beliefs. There is a type of manipulation that is not loud. not aggressive, not showy. It does not come in the form of orders, does not disguise itself as a victim, and does not publicly shame you. It comes in the form of concern, in the guise of advice, through slight frowns, seemingly harmless questions. Are you sure about that decision? I don't know. Do you think you're taking too much of a risk? Are you overestimating yourself? At first you don't mind. You think they're genuinely concerned about you. But then, as your every move is questioned, something starts to happen. You start to question yourself, and then they get what they want, because they know, if they can't control your behavior from the outside, they can dilute your confidence from the inside. They don't have to scream at you to back down. They just have to plant a little, not sure, a little, what if, a little, could it be wrong, in your mind. And you start to slow down, hesitate, justify, seek consensus. That's when the power is no longer yours. Why is this type of manipulation the most dangerous? Because it doesn't come from harsh words, but from gentle words. It doesn't come from opposition, but from caring. It doesn't push you down, but makes you sit down. It makes you believe the doubt is yours, when in fact it was planted, deliberately, little by little. And once you get used to living in inner ambiguity, you always need others to validate your decisions. You lose your inner compass. You no longer live as an individual, you live as an image that others approve of. Stoic philosophy can save you from that maze. Epictetus once said, "A wise man does not look to others for approval to feel secure." Stoics are not swayed by praise, nor are they crushed by criticism. They act rationally after careful consideration, and they accept the consequences of their choices without blame or applause from the crowd. I used to be an explainer. I used to find myself explaining every step of a decision to people who had no stake in it. I used to be swayed by a skeptical look, a half-hearted comment, and gradually I stopped trusting my intuition, my experience, my own abilities, until one day I realized I was living as if I needed approval to survive. I was holding someone else's hand to lead the way, even though the path I was taking was mine. From that day on, I started practicing one thing, making a decisive decision and then being silent. No explanation, no need for consensus, no waiting for applause. And strangely enough, when I stopped looking for validation from the outside, peace began to emerge from within. So what should you do when faced with this type of doubter? 1. Listen, but with a filter. Not everyone who gives feedback is sincere. Ask yourself, has this person lived a life similar to mine? Is it worth giving them direction? 2. Remember why you chose that path. Once you have made a rational decision, respect yourself. 3. Stop overreacting to feedback. Not every silence is rejection. Not every frown is a warning. 4. Build a strong inner pillar. Journal. Self-talk. Regular inner dialogue. 5. And above all, don't give the defining moment of your life to someone who doesn't have the courage to be true to themselves. A confident person doesn't need to shout to prove anything. They just walk step by step with a quiet certainty in their heart. And if someone asks, "Are you sure?" they will smile and say, "I am sure enough that I don't need you to be sure for me." 5. They try to isolate you. When they can't control you, they try to leave you alone. When you become too stable to manipulate, too alert to fall into their emotional traps, and too self-possessed to be pulled into their games, they resort to a more insidious strategy, cutting you off from those around you, not by open threats, not by coercion, but by whispers behind people's backs, doubts planted in their ears, stories twisted to fit their purposes. They don't have to bring you down, just make you feel alone, because they know a strong person, when supported, is invincible. But if they can cut off the connections around you, friends, family, colleagues, They make you more vulnerable, and they do it very subtly. You're not sure you can trust them completely. Haven't you noticed that person has changed recently? Every word is like a drop of acid on the foundation of connection, shaking trust, creating distance, making you doubt even those who have stood by you. What does Stoic philosophy help us see clearly? Seneca once wrote, "Surround yourself with people who make you better. Stay away from those who drag you down." That's the key. Be selective about your relationships. When someone tries to separate you from others, it's not because they care about you, it's because they want you to be weak. They need you to be alone, because a lone prey is easier to kill than a warrior in a pack. I've been there. An acquaintance started spreading vague rumors about me to those around me. At first, vague whispers, then distortions of the truth. I wanted to speak up, I wanted to explain, but then I understood every time I reacted, I was playing by their rules. So I chose a different path. I held fast to my values. I continued to live clearly, act consistently, and invest in real relationships. The result? The trustworthy ones stayed, the impressionable ones left. And I realized they left not because I lost value, but because they never belonged. So how do we deal with this divisive tactic? 1. Stay calm. Any strong reaction becomes evidence for them to continue distorting the truth. 2. Maintain and nurture real relationships. Real people will see the truth, no matter what anyone says. 3. Don't hold on to people who turn away. If they are easily swayed by rumors, they probably aren't deep enough to stick with you for the long haul. Remember, isolation is a strategy of the weak, but true connection, built with sincerity, time and action, is not easily broken. The person who wants to isolate you will fail, as long as you stay true to yourself and never lose yourself just to keep a superficial relationship. 6. They provoke your emotions. When they can't sway you with reason, they try to drag you down with emotions. When all other tactics fail, when you're no longer vulnerable to manipulation, no longer seeking approval, no longer swayed by rumor or doubt, they play their final card, appealing to your emotions. They will say things that they know will touch your soft spots. They will mock you, bring up the past, misinterpret your actions. Not to understand you, but to provoke you. Not to argue, but to provoke a reaction. Because they know one thing. Once you lose control of your emotions, you lose power. You can be the smartest person in the room until you lose your temper. You can be the innocent one until you scream in protest. You can be right, but 1 second of losing your cool and you become the problem. This is the most dangerous and most popular game. They don't have to be right, they just have to make you lose control. And when you explode, they sit back pretending to be calm. See, I was just saying it gently, but they overreacted. And so the roles are reversed. You, the one trying to maintain your position, to maintain boundaries, become the extremist. They, the one provoking, attacking, become the calm victim. But Stoicism prepares you for this. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The best revenge is to not become like the one who offended you." And that's the silent but ultimate counter-attack. You don't react the way they expect. You stay calm. You don't grimace. You don't raise your voice. You don't fall into the emotional trap. You drain their energy to zero just by being calm. I've been in situations like this. Someone deliberately poked fun at something they knew I was sensitive about. They brought up falsehoods, said hurtful things in front of others. I felt my blood rush. Every instinct urged me to argue, to fight back, to defend myself. But then I took a breath. I remembered a line from Marcus's Meditations. If it is not bad, then the person who says it cannot hurt us. I just looked at them and said, nothing more, no rebuttal, no explanation, just a calmness that leaves them confused because they have no weapon to use if you don't react. So, How to deal with this type of person. 1. Recognize the signs early. If you notice your partner saying unreasonable things that are annoying, know this: they don't want to talk, they want to fight. 2. Delay your response. Count to 5. Take a sip of water. Look out the window. Anything to keep you from responding with your first emotion. 3. Keep your voice and facial expression neutral. Don't give them any emotions to latch onto. Your outward emptiness is a mirror of their clumsiness. 4. Not reacting does not mean weakness. It is control. It is the practice of inner strength. Emotions are the territory that manipulators want you to enter, because that's where your rationality weakens. But you don't have to follow that call. You can stay in that solid place where you own every breath, every word, every reaction. Be the mountain, not the wind. Be the ocean, not the waves on the surface. And remember, no one can control you if you have mastered yourself. 7. They wait for you to fail, not because you are wrong, but because you dare to move while they are still standing still. Not everyone around you truly wants to see you succeed. Some people don't openly oppose you, they don't argue with you, they don't threaten you, they don't try to drag you down. They just silently observe, and in that silence, they wait. Waiting for you to stumble, waiting for you to fail, waiting for the slightest sign of failure so you can breathe a sigh of relief. I told you, because deep down your success isn't inspiring, it's intimidating. Your persistence confuses them. Your consistency makes them feel inadequate. Your self-control reminds them that they could have tried, but they didn't. And when you step up, without asking anyone's permission, without waiting for anyone's recognition, they start to get annoyed. Not because you're doing anything wrong, but because you're living proof that personal effort is real, that circumstances aren't the only reason, that "I can't" is sometimes just a way to avoid "I don't dare." They are not against you, they are against the feeling you evoke in them. You walk, they stand. You act, they hesitate. You build, they procrastinate. And the growing odds leave them with only one thing to hold on to, hoping you stumble. Because if you fail, they will be appeased. Not because they hate you, but because they need you to be wrong, to feel right in choosing to do nothing. When you fall down, they feel relieved, but when you stand up, they are silent. I had a public failure, a project that went nowhere, a goal that was not achieved, and immediately the people who had wished me luck turned around with a smile of irony hidden in concern. "I was a little worried about you. I get it. They don't care about me. They worry that if I succeed, they won't have a reason to keep procrastinating themselves. But what's so great about it? I wasn't there to prove anything. I was there to live my own journey. And so after that failure, I didn't make excuses. I didn't argue. I just did one thing: keep going, and that silences them more than any excuse. So, facing them, what should you do? 1. Don't waste a second trying to convince someone who is secretly hoping you'll fail. They don't need a reason. They just need an excuse to confirm their incompetence. 2. Stumble if necessary, but stumble with honor. And rise with will. 3. Put your energy into growth, not response. Your silent advancement is what keeps them from saying more. 4. Don't try to drag them along. If they want to stand there for the rest of their lives watching you stumble, let them. Your life is not a stage for their passive satisfaction. And remember one important thing. True success doesn't come from surpassing others. It comes from overcoming the fear that others are watching to see you fail. They will wait for you to fail. But you don't have to avoid failure to deal with them. You just have to keep going, relentlessly, no fuss, no drama. And one day you will be so far away that even if you stumble, they will no longer be close enough to see. 8. They imitate you. When they can't surpass you, they try to become your copy. There is a strange but very common thing that you will notice when you start being true to yourself. walking with inner freedom and living true to your values. Other people start to imitate you. At first it's very subtle. You say something, they repeat it a few days later as if it was their idea. You change your lifestyle, your habits, your way of doing things, they start doing the same, but never admit to being inspired by you. Then, over time, you realize they're no longer competing with you, they're trying to be you. But this isn't a compliment. This isn't admiration. This is passive resistance. When they can't make you doubt yourself, can't manipulate you, can't isolate you or make you angry, they turn to their ultimate weapon, absorbing your energy. They want to reap the results you have achieved without walking the path you have walked. They want to shine with the light they borrow from you without lighting their own torches. Imitation is evidence of identity impotence. A confident person will learn from you, but they will create their own path. An insecure person will not. They copy because they are afraid to create. They imitate because they lack substance. They borrow character because they have never built one themselves. And as you go further, more steady, more individual, they get lost. Because copies can only survive when the original remains still. Once you evolve, there is nothing left for them to copy. Stoic philosophy illuminates this phenomenon with calm. Seneca wrote, "A person's true worth lies not in what they pretend to be, but in their natural temperament, which cannot be borrowed." You can copy behavior, but you cannot copy will. You can dress like someone, talk like someone, but you cannot copy the clarity, the awareness, the inner refinement that comes from practice and awareness. I've seen this many times, and it annoys me. People have criticized me, doubted me, questioned everything I did, and then when the results came, they gradually changed, not to support, but to copy. What I wrote, they wrote. What I built, they built similarly. But there was always a gap they could never overcome. I was the one living it. They just copied the surface. One day I changed my style completely, and you know what happened? They lost their way. They couldn't follow anymore. Because the leader is creative. The follower is dependent. So how do you deal with people who keep imitating you? 1. Don't try to stop them. They will do it whether you are upset or not. Your feelings don't stop their lack of identity. 2. Keep evolving. Every step you take makes them work twice as hard to keep up. Let your constant change be the thing that keeps them off track. 3. Understand one thing. Imitation can never replace authenticity. They may resemble you a little, but they will never be you. You are original. Don't let imitation diminish you. Don't hold back. Don't stop creating. Don't hold back your truest self, just because someone else is trying to copy you. If they need you to know who they are, then you have won. No need to fight. No need to prove. Just keep being you, and they will always be chasing your shadow, never touching the light you create. When you start living with principles, boundaries, and a clear identity, you will not be loved by everyone. You will even be misunderstood, challenged, silently attacked, not because you did wrong, but because you are no longer fit to be controlled. They will manipulate you emotionally. They will fabricate lies. They will play the victim. They will isolate you. They will sow doubt. They will provoke you. They will mimic you. And then they will sit back and wait for you to fail, as if that is their sole purpose in life. But you know what? Each of those tactics fails when you don't participate. Stoicism doesn't make you cold and unfeeling. It makes you someone who doesn't get caught up in the cheap games of human psychology. It teaches you that true freedom lies not in controlling others, but in not letting others control you. True peace comes not from pleasing the world, but from making peace with yourself. And real power needs no recognition, for it is quiet enough to need no applause. So if you find yourself being isolated, hated, manipulated, smile. Not because you are weak, but because you are starting to become stronger than they can bear. Keep going. Don't react. Don't be bitter. Don't retaliate. Just go ahead, with calm integrity and self-control. Because in a world full of tricks and deception, the one who cannot be controlled is the one who everyone fears the most.